Hey YouTube, how you guys doing today? Kevin here coming at you with another video. Okay, in the first video you guys saw me strip the tank right straight down using that cleaner there, the aircraft cleaner. This tank is not bad inside. I mean, that's paint. And there's no coating on this thing. So it's got some rust inside the tank, and we're going to use this. Evaporust. 5,000! No, just Evaporust. We're going to put that inside the tank. So, knowing the tank has some holes, I used some tape, some packing tape, some good strong packing tape, and taped over the holes. Chances are it's not going to hold. You can see they already repaired the tank before. It's got some braze on it. So we're going to get into it a little bit more. I put a rubber plug over the petcock, and then we're going to fill this tank up with Evaporust and throw a tank cap on it. Alright. So now we have the Evaporust in the fuel tank. Fuel tank is sitting here with the Evaporust in it. We're going to then take a cap, put the cap onto it, snug as we can, turn the vent off, doesn't really matter, and we're going to let this thing sit overnight. I'm hoping it cleans out the tank enough where we can get we can braze it. We have to braze all the little holes that are on this thing, but I want to get rid of all the rust first. Now you're asking yourself, Kevin, wouldn't it make more sense to seal the holes before you put the liquid in? Yes and no. What I did was I used packing tape to seal the hole, okay, so the Evaporust can work. Now this stuff works, it says right here, where are you? Right there. Evaporust, sit for 2 to 4 hours, drain completely, and rinse with water. Okay? We're going to let this thing sit as long as we can until it doesn't leak. We have a nice bucket down bottom here. This is stuff I spilled into it. A nice brand new bucket from the dollar store, so we don't have to worry about losing the Evaporust. Now, one thing about Evaporust is you can use it again. This stuff is very, very safe, good for the environment. I try using the less abrasive stuff first before I go to like the muric acid, or you can use vinegar, but I'd rather use the Evaporust on a light tank. This tank is really not rusted inside. Now, getting to what I was saying. The reason why I want to clean the tank before I seal it, before I plug all the holes and do all the, all the brazing, is because if the rust breaks up and there's another pinhole, now I'll see it. If I braze all the holes, fill it up with all that, and then I have one later on, now I gotta do it all over again. So it's the Evaporust level is this way, straight across, okay? So what we're doing is we're gonna let this thing sit. We're going to leave the liquid in it so it can do its job. Then we're gonna rotate the tank and fill up this portion of the tank. So that's what we're going to do. Yeah, I got a boo-boo. Cut myself. But that's not bad. So anyway, that is how we did that. So I used packing tape, a good quality packing tape, a rubber plug where the petcock is. This came off of one of the bikes I picked up. And this was a black tank, red underneath of it. So we stripped it right down to nothing so we can get it done. Now, once this thing is all done, we'll do all the body work to it. We'll patch all the holes, fix the tank correctly, and then prime it, paint it, and get the decal kit, and then clear coat it. And then this tank right here will go on the kv75 here. So we're still going to do this tank right here that I cut up and sandblasted. So we're going to do that. We're not done with this tank. But that's what the tank is going to look like. It's going to be that color orange with that decal on it. The 1980 Kawasaki detail. And that's going to go onto this bike. Now, with that said, so once the tank is on, we got the seat. We got the grommet that, remember I used one from another style bike. I'm going to put the proper one on. We now have the proper headlight bolts, which I'm going to do next. I like to put the proper stuff back on. So those other two bikes have the actual headlight mounting bolts. So I'm going to grab those, put them on, and I found a couple bolts to work on this taillight. I actually have the proper ones for that, so we're going to go ahead and put those on as well. So we're kind of just trucking along and swapping parts back and forth. Pretty much all we're doing to get the bike proper. Once the bike is proper, then we can do all of our modifications to it later on. So, except for the CDI, which is one of the first things that I've modified. So, the wiring is in. The wiring is done. Just peace on earth with the wiring. The seat looks great. I got the tires, both tires. That's the new one there. The new one's on over there. I got the wheel bearing kit right there. I already did one. We have to get the rubber mounts, the rubber feet mounts for that. Chain sprocket, boom. We're done with that. Then we can get right into that engine after that tank is done. I can't wait. God, I can't wait. I got covers, parts, and pieces all over the place. These are from junk engines right here that came with the other bike. So I was looking for a shifter and all that, and just really everything's just hammered. So I do have the shifter from that motor right there. I was going to have the other one welded. I don't need to now. I have that. I've got a couple of extra magneto plates. I have a junk one and this one. So I have the factory one if I want to put the bike back to the way it was. And then I got the one that was damaged from being in the box. I have that one, which I'm going to modify with the proper holes. I'll give you guys the schematic for that, so that you guys can then go ahead and build your own CDI unit with the stuff there. Extra clutches, just a couple of extra pieces, grommets, that sort of thing. So I have a friend of mine who's interested in those right there, so he will have first dibs on those. Other than that, we're doing good. How's my level? Make sure I got all my holes taped up. I think I do. I think the level's still pretty high in there. Yes, it is. Look at that. Nice. I'm going to leave that in there overnight. Then tomorrow, I'll flip it over, do the other side, and then voila. Guess what, people? A clean tank. Braze it, paint it, call it happy, and send it on its way to me. So, that's the plan. And I got an extra gas cap out of it. So, tank's been cleaned up, but it's actually a really good tank, so I'm not really complaining at all. Whew, a lot of stuff going on, guys. A lot of stuff. So, I gotta pick up my mast. I got an extra flywheel. I'm probably gonna use that one. Okay. So, this is the damaged magneto plate, but that's okay, because we're gonna make that into another thing. An extra taillight assembly, but the piece to mount the lens is busted, which is okay. But for the most part, it's all intact and complete, which is nice. And then, of course, I have the actual mounting. So I mounted the light on there with bolts from another bike. And I don't know if they're the proper length or whatever. So we are going to go and pop that off because I like things properly. So let's do that. Let's get that and that. Those are the proper bolts for that. Even though they are rusted, I'm going to go ahead and then clean them up. So I'm not really too worried about their appearance at the moment, because when I go through the entire bike, I will then go ahead and clean them. So if I have the bolts proper, then I'm good to go. Okay. So let's get you guys in the stand. All right. So just take this, pop this plate. This plate just set on here. This was a nice gift. Very excited about that. Dropped it up. There it is. Okay. All right. And now we got the proper nuts and bolts. I already dropped one. Like I said, I don't mind rusted bolts because I can clean them up after later on, which I will do that. I just want them to be the proper ones. And when you don't know if it's the proper one or not, it makes it a little, it's just one of those, it's the small things, you know, you know that it's not correct. So there's a lot of little intricate things on these bikes to make their value up, is to make sure you have all the proper parts and pieces. And me, I'm like that. I like to make sure I have all the proper parts for a bike when I'm building them. Because there's nothing worse than someone going, well, that's not the right bolt. That, you know, taking the bike apart. Not that it really matters, but yes, these bolts are different. These have washers and stuff, like extra stuff on them. And I want to make sure that the right ones on the bike. Okay. Put the prop one back onto it. The one that goes up underneath, and then I dropped the other one right here. Okay, here we go. All right. Make sure I'm doing this correctly here. Hold on. Yeah, these are the right ones. Okay, so these are the ones that go to this. I got to loosen up that top one there. Alright, so you even have an extra socket and everything else, just extra parts, you know what I mean? It's good to have extra parts. So let's see, it takes the same bolt through there, but with a nut on the end, on the back side. I get a lot of comments on how do you find parts and pieces and everything else on these bikes. They're very hard to find. And what you do when you're working on a bike like this, and this is what I say, and this is what I do actually. So what I do is I'll go and I'll buy a lot of bikes, get them on Craigslist, spend the money on them, buy them, and then what I'll do is I'll take the leftover parts, sell the leftover parts, and make all my money back. What this does for me is it gives me some cool extra parts and pieces that you need, because whenever you have a bike like this, you need extra parts. For instance, I got a throttle cable assembly. Now I already got a throttle cable assembly for the bike, brand new, a remanufactured part. But I also want to have a factory one. There's a few differences. Here's the throttle cable right here. Shrink you guys down. And it has like different rubber boots and stuff on it. So this is the proper cable for this bike. And it had the fancy little end on it that I needed for this year of bike. So it's really nice to have period correct parts, even if they're aftermarket. You want to make sure that you have the actual parts and pieces. So now that we got the proper bolts on the license plate part of that, you can then move on to the next part. Like I said, I want to make sure I got all the factory actual style bolts and bits and pieces onto this bike. Because that right there is what makes it. All my KEs and my KDs and my KMs, they're all factory equipped with stuff. So with that said, I want to make sure that I have this bike as well. Because this summer, when this bike is up on the lineup with the rest of them, I want it to be as correct as humanly possible. Or at least as correct as I can possibly make it. So let's see, we got the That socket right there has been painted. So we have an extra socket. Let's see here. Got the bolts, the factory bolts. I'm going to keep those with the socket. Okay, so that's where I'm at with that. Then the next part. Okay, so now the headlight bolts that I have in the headlight assembly are incorrect. In fact, they're from a Kawasaki, but they're from the whatchamacallit there, KE100, and they're actually a little longer. So we'll take this down here like that. They're not the correct ones. In fact, they get the right size. You can see how long they stick through. So we can expand you up there. Okay, so they stick through quite a ways longer than they should. So we're gonna take those off and switch them out. For a lot of people going, Kevin, I don't see what the big deal is. They look fine. Well, yeah, they did look fine. They looked all right. Not really anything dramatically crazy, but I know they're wrong, and that's why. So on the factory headlights, there's a beveled side, and then there's a flat side. The flat side goes towards the headlight, and then of course I have a ground strap in here from a Yamaha, so I'm going to incorporate that as well. Now you're sitting there going, okay, he's talking about correct stuff, and now he's talking about a Yamaha part. Okay, so as I said, I do some modifications to my bikes, and I have a Yamaha grounding strap on the bike headlight assembly to give me better, what do you call it there, a better ground. They just work better, and it's something I can trust electrically. So, like I said, I don't like non-working, non-proper stuff, but I also do modify some of the stuff that I have. Yeah, you can see these bolts are a little bit different in length. So I want to make sure I got the proper stuff in there. Proper hardware. Good. Right there. Especially when you work hard on a bike to make it correct, you really just want everything correct. And like I said, I'm just one of those guys where, yeah, I can go to a bolt bin and pick up a whole bunch of bolts for it to fit it. But at the end of the day, I know it's not correct. And it ain't like I can't get the stuff to do it. So I like my stuff to be correct. I'm not going to win a beauty pageant with the bike. Absolutely not. However, when someone looks at the bike, I want them to look at it and go, oh, he paid attention to detail and added a couple of really cool things to it. So that's where I'm at with the bike. Till I make it right. Okay. Now I feel better having all the right bolts and parts and pieces into it. Okay, good. Whew. Bike is coming along little by little. I can't think of anything else that I really need to change on the bike to put it back to the proper way. There is a screw in back of the oil tank that I will replace, that I used from another bike. I'll change that screw. And then I think that screw, yeah, that's it. That's all there is to it. That's all I got left. That screw right there. And then she's done. As far as, you know, all the proper stuff on the bike as it sits. So, got the oil tank. We got the light lens. All the electrical on this bike works beautiful. No issues with any of that. So we got the proper bolts there, the proper bolts there. I gotta put one screw back there, and then this is done as far as that's concerned. Then we're gonna keep working on the tank. Let's go check on that, by the way. You can see right here I got the other tail light assembly. This is the one with the broken lens. So we've got a couple of those. I got a peg right here. This is one of the pegs that go to the bike. So it seems to be, and if it's working, good. Look at that, guys, huh? Just sitting there doing its thing. So we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna leave that in there, let that evaporust do its thing, and hopefully it all works out good. If not, then we'll go with something stronger, like acetone, and then burn it out. So that's pretty much the only two options I have, and those are the only two I'm going to take. So we'll get it as long as we get this tank done, so we can get this thing all the body work done to it, get it primed, painted, and on that bike. I also have, that was incorrect on the bike, is one of these. These are the metal inserts that go into the grommets. One of them was, I put a beveled one on there underneath the seat, so we're going to switch that out real quick so I can have the right one of those. I have all the grommets for the fuel tank, so let's see where we're at with this. Okay, here we go. Where are you? Here. Boom, boom, boom. And then we got, pop that seat off. I like how nice and hard it comes off now. Before it just came right off, no questions asked. Now it gives you a little bit of a fight. Okay. And under here, this metal insert right here, I'll show you. This actually came off of a Honda MB5. So it came off of an MB5. Get that piece off there. Okay, so if you look on the ends, I don't know if you can see there's like a little chamfer, like a beveled edge on it right here. So this is not the correct one. It's supposed to have just a blunt, straight, flat edge. So now we got the proper grommet for that. These grommets look good. Put that in there, and then that go on the bike like it's supposed to. Okay, so we got all the factory tank grommets. That's all set and done. Batteries are here, look good. Yep. I wanted to switch out the tail light with a factory one, but it's alright. I'll do that. I got a nice plate bracket. So I got the wire harness going up over the middle, and then the tank, just the seat goes over the middle of that. Slams down and locks right in. Voila! That part's done. So, as you can tell with me, hardware, proper hardware, makes a huge difference. So I want to make sure that, like I said, I've gone over it several times. If it ain't right, it ain't right. And at least now, when I look at the bike and I go take the bike apart, every screw, every bolt is proper. So then it just makes the bike that much more straightforward. So anyway, guys, that's what I have for you. I know it's kind of a long, drawn-out, boring video. Not really anything exciting in it, but at least you guys get to see where I'm at and the way I do things. And I always stress, take the time, do it right, do it correct. Don't cut corners. Now, this bike right here, when it's all up and going, the motor's all rebuilt and everything else, you're looking at about a $2,000 bike. Okay, yeah, $2,000, maybe even $2,500. with all the actual factory pieces on it. So when you have a bike that has a little bit of value to it, make sure you do them correctly. Don't cut corners, because you're gypping somebody, especially if you're trying to get all the money for it. I'm not selling this bike. This bike's not going to be for sale. This is one of the bikes that is going in my collection, and then I'm gonna ride it, and I'm gonna enjoy the heck out of it, and I am going to register it. So, with that said, I am gonna have some fun with this bike.
Hey, Kevin.
Okay, so what you call it there? So yeah, I'm doing it. I'm doing it for myself. This is not gonna be a for sale bike. Some of the parts bikes that you saw out there, I have a friend who's doing the same thing. He actually restores bikes, so I always give him first dibs and stuff, and he's helped me out tremendously with this build. And if it wasn't for him, there was a lot of stuff on this I would not have known about. So what to look out for, hard to find parts and pieces. I still got to get some stuff. I still got to get the air cleaner assembly I don't have, and of course it has to have the bracket on it. So I'm still working on building my parts list. But as it sits, it's not in bad shape. It's actually in way better condition than how I got it, which is, knock on wood, a great thing. So it's not a bad bike. It's not in bad shape. Like I said, I got to do wheel bearings on this wheel. You know, get all that crap. I'm not going to go over that again. I already did it with you. And then we're going to go ahead and, after this thing's all done, we're going to paint the frame and forks and swing arm. Get that all done. We'll sandblast some wheels, and we'll get crack-a-lacking on it. But I just want to get the bike together, up and running, so I can ride it around the yard. And then from there, we'll take it all back apart, sandblast all the screws, paint them, do them all up properly. So anyway, guys, I'm out. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Thank you for sharing my channel with your fellow motorheads. Appreciate that. Yeah, we got to get back on, like I said on my last video, we got to get back on the KE102 build. But I just got the parts for this right here, so I figured I'd jump ship on the KE102 for now and get cracking on this thing again. But the KE102 is my primary. I just have nothing going on with it at the present moment. So, this is where we're at. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Talk to you guys later. Bye.